tonight's a little bit longer than normal because we have a lot of stuff to cover, and I might not even cover all on page 4. We'll see. This class is about healthy boundaries, and I want you to do something, if possible. If you go to the very back page, I like to give credit where credit is due. There are 2 Christian authors, Cloud and Townsend, Henry Cloud, John Townsend. I recommend their stuff all the time. These are some of the books I used to prepare this short handout. There's a book called Boundaries. This is a little bit older version here that if you're looking at it here, it says workbook, but it's very much like the real book. Hi, come on in. And so the Boundaries book is now in a different edition, but be sure to check out, you can come over here, be sure to look out a Boundaries book. And thank you. And the Boundaries book, and then you have specific books, Boundaries with teens, in marriage, with kids. And these other 3 books, Beyond Boundaries, is what do you do after you've established them, like how do you renegotiate it. And these other books, Changes That Heal and Save People, are so good. I could go on and on and on. The book, just a little footnote, what it's worth, the book Changes That Heal is one of the most influential books I've ever read, ever. It covers, now because they're known for their boundaries books, they almost always have something about boundaries in every book. And so does Changes That Heal, but it's okay to reread it. They have a couple of chapters on boundaries, but it has a bunch of other stuff. So, and their website, cloudtownsend.com. I had the great privilege of a couple years ago attending a week-long leadership course that they teach in California. I got to meet them face to face, and that was really great. It meant a lot to me, really did. So I recommend their works a whole lot, and the study you're going to have now in the next 6 weeks, in large part, comes from their works combined. So what I typically do not do is give page numbers of books and make it more lecture type. It's more of a synthesis. And a lot of the theological stuff, some of it comes from them, a lot of it comes from me. They are Christian counselors. They both have their undergrad, master's, and a PhD, and they both have PhDs in clinical psychology, I believe. They've run Christian counseling for years and years and years and years. And they are what we call integrationists. They integrate the best of psychology with the best of the Bible and put them together to a degree. Some people don't think we should do that at all, and some go throw the baby out, the Bible out altogether. So integrationists are kind of in between the two. I call myself also an integrationist because I want to see what it's like from a Christian perspective. At the same time, something I do, I think more, how do I say this, gracious? I work hard at, when I use the Bible, not to rip it out of context. So when you read their books, the only thing I've ever said that I wish they do a little differently is they quote verse after verse after verse after verse, even if that's not at all what Jesus meant or Paul meant. It might have a word similar they're looking for. Sometimes that drives me a little crazy. So in your handout, if there's a Bible verse, I'm convinced it's actually a good reference. That is, it's representing the context well. And if you're doing the growth group now on how to read the Bible for all it's worth, you'll see that context is one of my favorite words. And so that matters a lot to me. But I cannot recommend Cloud and Townsend's work enough. They have books together. They have individual books that I just recommend you to them, and I give them praise a lot. And then, of course, other 2 websites, you know these other 2 people. So tonight what I want to do is talk about healthy boundaries with others. Now I'm on page 1, the very beginning. We'll cover a broad sweep of what boundaries are and how they relate to our lives. Next week and the following weeks we'll get real specific. Boundaries, I think it's on page 5. Is that right? 5. Boundaries with the self. Then I'll do boundaries in marriage, boundaries with kids, and so forth. I do hope you'll attend all of them, even if you're not married, even if you don't have kids, because the boundary vocabulary that we'll be talking about will be helpful, I'm telling you, no matter what. At some level you go, oh, I've got a niece or nephew that'll help me with, or I've got grandchildren, or I've got, one day I want to be married, or I know friends who are married and now I see they're doing it wrong, or they're doing it right, or it just will help you overall. So even if that week doesn't really particularly apply to you, I think you're going to find it helpful. And if I can start off by saying this one encouraging testimony to encourage you. This study I've taught for many, many, many years at different churches, and some people can be very discouraged when we cover it because they realize they've lived without boundaries for a long time. And it can really hit them like a ton of bricks and go, oh my goodness, David, everything you said don't do, You've just nailed me over and over. I'm not going to keep looking at Lisa. I'm just going to point at her a lot whenever I talk to say, she said, I only have boundary problems at work. No, I'm teasing. Lisa's great. So, but I'm trying to encourage you that the people who stick in there and don't give up, it can change your life. Not because of me, but because of God's way of designing relationships. When you do it right, it is profoundly healthy and happy and joyful. And my one quick testimony story is, at one of my churches, there was a young couple who came to the first meetings. I never met them before. They sat way in the back, and while they were there, they came just, I said religiously, very quiet, never said a word. About the third time they came to visit, the guy comes up and says, thank you so much for your class. This is really good. He bragged. I said, well, thank you so much. Said some kind things. About week 4 or 5 into it, he wanted to meet one-on-one. You never know as a pastor what that means. So I don't know if I did something wrong, whatever. He said, hey, I want to tell you my testimony. And he goes in and starts talking about his background, struggling with addictions of all kinds, and all his story. It sounded like a Hollywood movie. And he said, basically, my fiance/live-in wife, you might call her, dragged me here and said, this is it. If this doesn't work, we're done. Because she'd been on and off for years with him. And that class changed his life. He will go back and say, my life began. Then he gave himself more to Jesus. Then they got married. I mean, it just changed it. Not because of me, but because when you start establishing what God has designed for relationships to work, change his life. I could tell you many stories like that. I'm saying that to encourage you, instead of being too discouraged if you find yourself. Now, maybe you're all wonderful at boundaries, but if not, that's okay. Join the rest of the human race, okay? So let's don't give up. So what I'm going to do is, what I like to do is, I'm going to cover a kind of section at a time, give some analogies, and I'm going to pause, and I'll be sure to ask questions. If there's something along the way you don't understand, please ask, okay? I like to be dynamic, but I'm just letting you know, if I'm talking for a good little while, I will pause, and then I wanted to kind of sink in if I can. Is that cool? So don't be afraid to ask me. There are no dumb questions. Let's do it. Okay, let's look at the top. I'm not going to read every word, but some of this we are. Healthy, that's one of my favorite words too, is healthy. Healthy relationships exist. Now think about this. I'm asking you now, sisters, and your brothers are not here, my brothers. What do they feel like? Now think about for a second, when you think about your in-laws, your spouses, your friends, your parents, people at church, when you meet certain kinds of people, how do you feel? Do these words sound like your relationship? Do you feel calm when you're around that person? Or does your heart race? Do you feel safe or do you feel in danger? Do you feel wanted or not wanted? Do you feel free to have your own desires and wishes, or do you feel locked down a little bit caged? You'll get fussed at if you have your own view. Do you feel unconditionally loved, which means they won't love you if you perform better for them. They won't love you less if you say, no thank you, I don't want to go there. I'd rather not eat that food tonight. I don't want to go see that movie, thank you anyway. Or do you feel fully unconditionally loved? If you're like me, there are relationships we have, it's okay to raise your hand, are there any relationship you have where that's not how you feel all the time? Any relationships you have where you don't feel this way all the time? I have some in my life, I don't feel this way all the time. So 2 of us. Good. So that's what happens. This is normal life. Now, here's the deal, and this is where most people start getting very angry with me early on. It's our problem. Our feelings and how we process things are up to us. The moral responsibility is up to us to deal with it. It's not up to us to fix the other person. And I'm going to talk a lot about that for the next 6 weeks. So when we talk about how they feel, usually our mind goes straight to the things I sure wish I could fix about old so-and-so. And that demonstrates a boundary problem in your part. But healthy relationships exist when these things happen. I have people in my life, and praise God I have several, but I've had to work hard at it. Certain people, when I know they're calling me, I've got one of my best male friend, his name is Jeff, lives in Texas. I know when he calls, I feel these words right here. I feel safe, I feel peaceful and wanted, calm, forgiven if I mess up. I just know when he calls, it's going to be a good phone call. He's my friend, he's going to build me up. He might challenge me, but I feel safe with him. I feel that way with my wife most times, most of the time. There are times, no really, and I want so badly for her to feel that from me. I want so badly for my children to feel that way. When Daddy comes home, they're not scared, they're not anxious and so forth. So I do what I can to make sure this stuff these are the descriptors I will use for my relationships. Now, I can't control how my wife feels, but I want her to feel that, and I can contribute to that in certain ways. We'll talk about that. So that's what healthy relationships are all about. Now, number two, an emotional boundary is just something that demarcates or limits what's my responsibility and what's not. And I'm drawing on the board here, this is a simple analogy of the two circles. So here's two circles. This is, so this is I, and this is you. Now, healthy boundaries, really healthy boundaries, exist when these are not blurry. They're independent. They're not blurred lines. Now, when I got married, Elaine and I's circle deliberately got intersected. Deliberately. But we came into the relationship, for the most part, not fully, and we've gotten better over the years, being independent. When you're unhealthy and you have poor boundaries, there's not much of an independent person. They're so looped over one another. It's what we call in psychology enmeshment. And that's when it's really hard to tell where you begin and the other person ends. You know you're enmeshed when the person you're in a relationship with, think about this for a second, if they're really upset, you're upset. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. That phrase is a perfect picture of very bad boundaries. That's not healthy in a family. If mom ain't happy, that's a very bad boundary. That's not healthy. That's a dysfunctional family. You're enmeshed when you have a hard time distinguishing between my feelings and your feelings, my desires and your desires. And emotional boundary just means it's my responsibility, it's not yours. I give this analogy all the time. The house, once we just came in Sugar Land, we lived right by a wooden fence with the end of a cul-de-sac, a short street with a cul-de-sac, long wooden fence. On the other side of the fence was about 4 or 5 acres with a barn. And the house was way up there. And for this part of town, that's a lot of acreage. Here, I know that's nothing to have billions of acres. But there, it really separated. All of a sudden, it was just like you're at a farm, which we loved. And our second-story house, outside of our master bathroom, there's a bathtub and a big old window, and outside the window was the barn. We saw the horses and the chickens, and we loved it. It was one of the number one sellers of the house. So Elaine would go, that's my favorite chicken. The horse looks dirty. I wonder if they're going to give a bath. And she would talk and talk. Well, there was this pretty white horse. Now imagine for a second that the owner of this horse, we met a couple times, he gave us some fresh eggs. He comes over the house and he knocks on the door. And I go, yes, sir. How's it going? He goes, what's your problem, David? I go, what do you mean, what's my problem? My horse, it's dirty. I might go, how about that? Why are you fussing at me? Why'd you wash him? Why'd you let him get dirty? Now, really, if that happened, how would you respond? Besides maybe disbelief, maybe laugh about it, is he being silly? Or has he lost his mind? Now, naturally, if he really kept pushing me, I would say, wait a second, wait. I put my hands up, wait a second. Let this sink in. Wait a second. That's not my horse. I didn't buy the horse. I didn't rent the horse. I didn't touch the horse. He's on your property. He goes, well, okay, but my grass needs cutting. And I go, wait a second. That's not my grass. The fence demarcates, it limits, it shows who's responsible for what. Now, in material things, we typically get that instantaneously. The truck we drove here tonight is mine. I do not expect Pat to go wash it. I would never in a million years go fuss at Pat and go, why did you let my truck get dirty? That'd be the most bizarre, it'd be nonsense to do that. Because why? It's my truck. I'm responsible for it. Well, materially, we usually get that. The problem is, most humans I know don't get that with emotions. There are no fences. And we are responsible for everybody else's stinking horse. We genuinely feel morally responsible for their business. That's bad boundaries. It's bad limits. I would tell my neighbor, you don't understand boundaries. That fence means I'm not responsible, and you're not responsible for my lawn. That's mine. It's my house. I wouldn't fuss at you for painting my house. And emotions, most people I know, I'm being honest here, do not have good boundaries. I hear it all the time, especially in church work. It's implied in things people said. It's explicated by things they say. Of the who's responsible for what, I mean, my boundary radar goes off every day. Ding, 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 ding. That's not your job. That's not your, I don't tell them. Yeah. But I hear it all the time because it's such a common problem that we humans have of knowing who's responsible for what. Who's responsible for this truck? Who's responsible for that? Who's responsible for my feelings, my wishes and my desires? I thought Morna was. Why wouldn't she take care of my horse? Who does she think she is? Why isn't she just trying to make sure I feel good all the time? Good boundaries say, wait a second. And Morna would say, wait a second. Those aren't my feelings, David. Those are your feelings. And you have a fence called skin. So let's look at a couple examples of basic examples of boundaries or limits in life. And so we can get real clear about this. Skin. Now there's a bunch of boundaries with skin. And that's one of the very first ways children realize they are a child and they're not their parent. They're different. That skin separates that. This is why, one of the reasons why, physical abuse for a child is so devastating. And I've counseled many people, unfortunately, in fact the statistics are scary sad, that physical abuse as a child greatly distorts the child and then future adult sense of self. When they feel so violated on the inside, they realize, I don't know who I am. I must be everybody else's to play with. And some go up and get counseling and move on with life, praise Jesus. Some respond to that sense of, I don't have a self by being overwhelmingly sexually fragrant because I don't have a self anymore. I'm someone else's whim. Others go the other extreme and don't ever touch me, don't look at me, don't ever. And they don't want to be touched, hugged, looked at, high-fived, and they get isolated. And it all starts because no one respected their original boundaries. And we teach our children from as long as they understood the language. When we say no, it means no. And one of the code words we use for our kids all the time, like if we're playing and they say, stop, stop. If we ever say, please stop, that's their no. Because we respect their skin, we respect their boundary. That's their stuff, that's theirs. And we talk about a lot. People respect her. Joey's giving me a high five, a thumbs up, and nodding her face. So there, she's testifying. Thank you, honey. I'm gonna give you extra treats for that. Good toys. Don't forget those cookies, I promised. But that's the deal. And even with the kids, each other. Hayden, that's hers. Julia's, that's his. Don't do that. Don't violate their boundaries. Words. This is a word most people. Let's practice this together. Let's practice this word together. Here we go. I want to repeat after me. It goes like this, and then we've never heard it before or said it. No. Here, let's do it together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. No. I'm leaning towards Lisa. I'm just giving her a hard time. I'm just giving her a hard time. I'm sorry to pick on her. No is the best way to determine what you value. And no, a form of no is saying I don't like. As soon as I walked in, she said, I don't like your shirt. It doesn't look good on you. That's the first thing she told me. So she told me, no, I don't like that. I don't prefer it. So she set a boundary. Here's what I do like, here's what I don't like, and I don't like that. I would like if you had a different color. That's a boundary. That's just a boundary. We have boundaries. When we say no, that's a or no thank you, or no I don't like that, no I don't want that. That's just a no, that's a boundary. Now Jesus had no problems with saying no. And if we could look up tons of Bible verses if you want to, but I'm telling you, he had no problem saying no. No, you can't take advantage of the children. No, you might as well put a stone around your neck. No, Pharisee, stop being a hypocrite, you brood of vipers. No, you can't do this. No, I don't want to go there. No, I'm not going to go there. Jesus, the crowds are calling you, you better hurry up. No, Jesus, your best friend Lazarus is dying in the hospital, better hurry up. John 11, he said, no. He stuck around Jerusalem 3 more days. Read the Bible. 3 days. No, I don't want to go. Pastor will get fired if you didn't go right away, but Jesus, I'm just teasing, just messing with you. The early church had no problem saying no. In Matthew chapter 18, we see if a brother sins against you, you go and meet one-on-one and tell them the sin they've committed, because that's a form of no. In 1 Corinthians chapter 5, 11 through 13, we have an example of a guy who's having sex with his stepmom. And Paul says, basically, no. Not only is it should not happen, but your church is encouraging it. That's a no. That's a limit. So no's a powerful word. And most of the time we have a hard time saying the word no because, why? We feel responsible for their feelings, their horse, their lawn, their buildings, their truck. And as the study goes by, you're going to be set free from that if that's your problem. But I want you to practice, a little footnote here. My homework, I'm encouraging you, do whatever you want to do, I know that. But if you care what I'm making you homework, my homework assignment for you is this week to find baby ways to say no. But I want you to say the word no. Now you can say, don't be mean. No, I said no. But you can say, no, thank you. But I want you to say the word no. And I'm serious. Some people I've counseled through the years cannot utter the word. And so we start by doing silly little things like go to a restaurant, and when McDonald's or whatever says, would you like fries with that? And they get anxious on the inside. I want you to practice baby and say, no, thank you. That is, you're not going to, now how much do you care that much about that worker? How much they're going to think about you later? You just practice baby. Baby steps, no, thank you. No, thank you, I don't want fries with that. No, thank you, I don't want Dr. Pepper. You just practice a little bit. Just a little bit, baby steps. And I want you to say the word no and cherish it for a second. And some people have genuine anxiety when they hear that, their heart's going to race. I'm encouraging you, it gets better. It gets better. You start with those baby no's, and it clarifies what you value. Geographical, I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. Geographical distance sure is a good boundary. Matthew 18:17, he says, if the guy does not repent at all, you treat him like a Gentile. That's it. 1 Corinthians 5:5, they got to leave. So sometimes geographical distance. One of the most powerfully good things you and I can do against a toxic person is to get space. And next Sunday, not this Sunday, but next Sunday, I'm preaching on forgiveness, and I will be adamant about this. Forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. You can forgive a person and never talk to them the rest of your entire lives. Sometimes the most healthiest, wonderful, Christian-loving thing you can do is to protect yourself from a hateful person. You can love them from afar. And geographical distance is some way to say, no, thank you. Sometimes parents or in-laws and grandparents need to keep their distance. I met a woman today who was great. She said, we move close to the grandkids, our children and grandkids, but we don't go to the same church because we don't want to be telling them all the time. We want some distance. And I thought, that's a boundary. Good for her. Good for her. I'm not saying you can't go with your kids and grandkids. Okay, all I'm saying is some people need the distance, and that's a good, healthy boundary. Some people need
I
it.
did something right, because when Tom and Angie started, everybody come up to me, why aren't you staying with them? Well, we just don't.
That's right. See, you get two things there. Very good. One is, why aren't we staying with our children? Well, we just don't. One is, because I don't want to. See, one is, it's a boundary problem on their part to assume you've got to do it, and that they're trying to fix your view. Everybody who tries to change your view has a boundary problem. Secondly, you did a good job by saying, we just don't. And I want you to practice, this is next level, this is PhD. And really, for a lot of people, can't say this just yet. It takes a while. I don't mean literally. I mean, it's advanced. When you know you're really good at boundaries, if someone's pushing you on those kind of things, you look at them with a smile and you say, you're going to go, I don't owe you an explanation. She said, oh, wow. See, that's, yeah. If they're pushy, I have said that. I've said it to my children since they could walk. Why, Daddy? Why? Why? Ask them. Why? I look at them, I'll kneel down on my knees and I'll say, I don't owe you an explanation. I'm the parent. In the office of parent, I don't owe you anything. You're not my boss, you're not my Lord Jesus. They've heard that once, if they've heard it 500 times, they've heard it once. I mean, I've said it a million times. And if an adult is pushy like that, I will look at them with a smile on my face and say, no, I don't owe you an explanation. Now, I don't go there first. I'm saying if they get real pushy, I'm just giving an example. That's if they get real pushy.
I always say, because I said so.
Yeah, because I said so. Well, that's a way of saying the same thing.
That brings on more anxiety sometimes.
Anxiety for them, you can't, that's right. And we'll talk about that with children particularly. But that is a form of what I just said. It's just the difference is I'm giving the explanation why I just said so is authoritative.
Yes.
I said so is authoritative. And why is that? Because I'm in the office of parent. In the office of parent, I have the moral authority to tell you no and not give you an explanation.
Because then my grandson will say, but you didn't answer. You didn't tell me why.
Oh, gotcha.
Because I said so, that should be enough.
That's right. Well, next time maybe you can practice that. Turn around and say, okay, so here my answer is, I don't owe you an explanation. You can demand it if you'd like. I won't give it.
Ooh, good one.
I don't owe you anything. You are not my boss or my Lord Jesus. Number 4, time. Okay, that's also a great way we've lost control And we lack appropriate ownership of something, taking time away from something can clarify values and limits. You will know what a person values by where they spend most of their time. You just will. You work 80 hours a week, well, that's what they really value. You shop 80 hours a week, that's what you value. On Facebook 30 hours a day, that's what you really value. Time lets you know what you really value, oftentimes. It really will. 5, emotional distance, the same thing. That's a good boundary. You can be near a person, but emotionally removed. You don't quote unquote go there anymore. You don't get deep. Conversations get very superficial and shallow very quickly. You just don't open you're not as vulnerable anymore. I've got people in my life that way. Once they hurt me, I'm friendly, I'm kind, I try to be like Jesus, but I no longer talk about personal issues with them because they burn me. Now, as we'll learn later on, boundaries are renegotiated. I don't cut them off forever, but I might. If their character doesn't change, I don't change either because I'm protecting what I value. It's my fence. My fence. Consequences are very, 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 very healthy. In 2 Thessalonians 3:10, Paul says, if they don't work, they don't eat. And that's just obviously some laborers who do work. The rich people don't work, but the laborers in the crowd, there are consequences. Consequences are a very, very, very healthy thing. And when we talk about being a parent or grandparent, we'll see that. Let me pause there. That's a broad thing. I'm going to unpack these things a little bit. Let me pause there, and we've covered a good bit already. What questions or comments do you have about that? And I do owe you an explanation, so if you ask me, I won't say. I'm teasing with you. Anything at all? If not, we'll move on.
Well, I think there's always going to be people that say something to you that maybe you don't like, but what I always try to think, I just consider the source.
Good. It's funny, I'm repeating this for the podcast that I'm recording. Yeah, some people, you'll say, I always have people say things you don't like, but then you think, consider the source. I agree. It's funny, my mom, growing up, my mom used to always say, son, consider the source. I mean, she really, all the time. In other words, some people like that, and so you can take it all personal or consider the source, and I hear that in my head all the time. Very good. That's very good. That helps you have an emotional boundary, right? It helps you get it. So wait a second. I won't let that over my fence. No, you can key over there. You can just have that nonsense, crazy, or hatefulness over there. And very good. Anything else? All right, let's get going. Now let me know if you have any questions. Page number 2. Okay, here's some places where I'm willing to get up in your grill. I'm going to get some of you upset, but I'm sorry. This is where don't get discouraged, okay? I mean, you can get what you want, but I'm encouraging you not to get discouraged in this one. Feelings. These are areas of boundaries. Feelings are indications of how we're responding to something. They're like a barometer. Let me pause there for a second. That's all they are. If you don't know what a barometer is, or a thermostat on the wall, which is right there on the back wall. If I go back there on that back wall and I look at it and it says 76 degrees or whatever it is, how dare you? What is wrong with you? Who would fuss at it? Who would do that? Who would fuss at it for telling us what the temperature is in the room? Listen, it's designed to do it. God designed us with feelings. We're taking the temperature all the time of what we perceive to be occurring in reality. That's all they are. But they're valuable that way. They might be wrong because their perception might be wrong. Sure, I think there's a bear in the room. There's no bear, but I think that, my heart's racing. Fine. But feelings are still good because what if they were right? What if there really was a bear? You don't want to get rid of all your feelings. You just want to make sure it's based on truth and reality. And the Bible, when it says, I said don't be afraid, God is never telling people don't ever have the feeling of fear. He's saying there's no reason to be afraid. It's based on a false understanding of reality. You're not afraid. I'm going to conquer that army. Don't worry about that. I've got you. So feelings are healthy and good and wonderful no matter what you've been told. And for some reason, a lot of times in the church, there's a lot of religious guilt about feeling things, particularly what we call negative emotions. We feel guilty for it. Sometimes I feel despair. I can't tell anybody because that means I don't have faith or I don't love Jesus, or they'll start throwing Bible verses at me. And I'm telling you that's unhealthy. Feelings are healthy, they're wonderful, and it's just a barometer. We don't want to be led by our feelings in making decisions, but we should pay attention to them and not judge them. If I've said once, I have said hundreds of times in my counseling session, when I'm talking to I'm listening to a person, I will say, I notice that you keep judging how you feel. Why do you do that? And oftentimes, it's almost split down the middle if I'm thinking about it. Sometimes I'll go, I didn't know I was doing that at all. I never thought about it. Others go right away, either tear up or get upset and go, I do that all the time. They judge how they feel. I know I shouldn't. I know I shouldn't. Man, I feel so guilty, but I know I shouldn't. You shouldn't feel guilty. Now you feel guilty for feeling guilty? I do. I feel so upset, but I know I shouldn't. I should just trust Jesus. Maybe you should, but maybe you should feel this. In other words, immediately we go to the judgment phase of how we feel. And I'm saying that's not healthy. God designed feelings like the barometer, like the thermostat, to give us something's going on. We should pay attention to that. Does anyone make every decision based on them? No, but we pay real close attention. You feel anxiety, that first description of relationships, you feel not calm but anxious around that person. Why is that? Why is it? Pay attention to why it is. Why is it? Why do they make you nervous? What is it about them or their behavior? And this is usually what people say, the little pseudo-psychology. You're really upset because there's something in them that's just like you and that bothers you. That's nonsense. Sometimes that's true, but in general, sometimes people are just hateful. Sometimes people trigger deep memories of your father or mother. Sometimes there's all kinds of reasons, but you pay attention to what the barometer is telling you. Pay attention to it, because it could be telling you something. God could be trying to show you something. Now this next bullet point, I want you to read it aloud with me. If you can read. Here we go. It's the I must. You ready? I must take responsibility for what I feel. Good, no one ran out. Okay. I must take responsibility for what I feel. No one makes me or you feel anything. No one does. Elaine, you mind get the doors? We don't feel things because someone made us. That's not how feelings work. Feelings are inside of us. I can't put a feeling in you. No matter how much I try, I can't put it in you. I can't. I can influence your feelings if you let me. I can, if you let me. Now, most of the time, most parts of life, we let people. And I use different analogies. One I've used for a long time, and it's okay analogy, like a contract, an emotional contract of a bullet points. Here's all the things I will let you affect me on. Here's all the things. And I'm convinced in life, I'm convinced of this, because I've been around too many people, that we have default contracts for certain kinds of people. A homeless person, I'm just picking a random person on the street we don't know, most people's contract is maybe 1 or 2 bullet points. Everything else, if a homeless come up and said, you're just so ugly and stupid, most people will go, to keep walking, like, who are you? Don't know you. What are you talking about? They have a short emotional contract, real short, of what I'll let you affect me on. Some people have a long one. They'll walk away devastated from that encounter. He said I was ugly. I really must be ugly. I knew this just like, I knew it, and they'll walk away devastated. We have default, I'm convinced, kind of contracts with coworkers, with family members, with friends. The problem is most people have not spent much energy focusing on what is on our contract. What I mean by contract is the things on there, things we will allow you to affect me on. Ideally, I allow my wife to affect me the most of a human, because as a marriage, I give that to her, but I willingly give it. If my wife said, you really are a stupid, ugly person, that's going to hurt my feelings. I think she's wrong, but it's going to hurt my feelings because I care what she thinks a lot. I care about her a lot. I want her to, of all the humans in the world, I want her to think I'm the most handsome of anybody. But I care if other people, everybody in the room said you're ugly, well, that hurt my feelings. But it really hurt my feelings if my wife said it. You see the distinction? And so that's what I'm trying to get at here when it comes to feelings is my feelings of whether it hurt my feelings is my responsibility. Now, I know, David, you're saying, David, wait a second. People come up there and they start yelling and screaming in your face and my heart starts racing. I don't want to feel that. My brain just reacts and I keep going. That's true. You can have a physiological response. But if you look back and go, now I feel resentment. Now I feel whatever. That person didn't make you feel it. You're choosing what to do with it. You ever meet these people, you might be one of them, they're able to let things go very quickly, and some people just hold on it forever. Some people love grudges. It makes them feel like they're in a one-up position above you. There are people in this church who hold grudges. People in every church I've ever served in. People in my family and friends. They love it. They want to hold on for dear life. They ever find one small mistake, they'll keep on it forever. Others let go immediately. I know people go, yeah, whatever. No matter what it is. If that even hurts your feelings at all, no, I don't care. It's just as quick as compare. Now, it doesn't mean one's Christian and one's not. One's crazy, one not. It's about boundaries. They take responsibility for it. And this other thing, I'm going down the list here, I'm not responsible for how you feel. I'm just not. This is especially difficult when we have spouses and dear friends. Because the classic marriage problem, is as soon as he comes in the door, if he's upset, then it makes me anxious. If she walks in the door and she's calm, then I'm calm. If mama comes home so-and-so, then I'm this. That's that enmeshment thing, the boundary problem. And that's one of the problems is we tend to really, really think that we're responsible for other people's feelings. But you're not. You're just not. You're just not. You're just not. If I had a bad Sunday, I don't want to come to church every day, if you can believe that. I don't always want to preach every single day. I'm a human. And I get, all right, let's do this. I got to do it. I'm still thankful for Jesus, want to get at it. And some comes up, and let's say I'm talking to Morna, and Morna said, how are you doing today? David, do you want to be here? And I said, no, I don't. I'm thankful for church, but I don't want to be here. And she goes, okay, God bless you, see you later. And I thought, who does she think she is? She didn't cheer me up. She's supposed to encourage me. Does she love Jesus? That's nonsense. That'd be a boundary problem on my part. She has no moral responsibility to cheer me up. No moral responsibility to cheer me up. As a Christian, our hope is to, when we speak, to encourage and build up. But it's my responsibility to what? Get over it. Or cheer myself up. It's my moral responsibility. My wife and I had a lot of disagreements about this for years in our marriage because she felt that I very much was responsible for how she felt if she had a bad day. And if I had to go shower her with praises for 30 minutes to get her back her spirits about lifted, she'd get real frustrated. And she's here, I'm saying, yeah, there are times, yeah, we're here, yeah. That happened. So she's got a lot better now. She don't always like to hear that. But now, as a spouse, now listen, of course, as a spouse, I want to cheer her up. I want to do it. When we talk boundaries in marriage later on, but it's not because I owe it to her. I want to do it. And our feelings, not the choices, are always based on what we believe. You believe there's a gunman in the room going to kill you, you're going to be anxious. And that's why in counseling, every single time I go back to figure out what it is they believe. What do you really believe about life? What do you believe about your past, about that trauma, about that person who hurt you? What do you believe about? We'll get down to the beliefs, because I'm telling you, we live out of those beliefs all the time. People do that with God and everybody else. Now, I'm spending a lot of time on this because this is the real biggie. Feelings are the biggie. And most people right now, probably, just statistically, in this room, most of y'all still don't believe this at all. That's okay. Just a baby steps right now. Some of you still don't believe that you're really not responsible for the other person's. And I'll prove it, because if you go home or you talk to a friend, they're upset, you're going to feel guilty if you don't try to cheer them up. You're going to feel guilty if you say the word no thank you. You'll feel guilty. That guilt you feel demonstrates your boundary problem. The guilt you feel demonstrates your boundary problem because you think it's your job to fix their emotional state. It's not. It's not. If I say no thank you to that dinner invitation, they're going to be so upset with me. That's your problem. They're going to resent me and be so upset if I say no, but that's your problem. You're not there to make sure they feel happy. You didn't say this, but to pick up your grandson. Our grandson gets so angry. I'm glad you didn't say, and I can't have him be angry. Nonsense. Nonsense. People can get angry all they want. That's up to them to get over it. I'm not there to fix it. Right. I'll say one other final point and move on. Let me say it this way if this hasn't clicked yet. According to the biblical witness, we will not show up at Judgment Day. We will not show up at Judgment Day, and God will not look at Susan and say, Susan, why did you let David feel that on that day? Why did you let him feel that? Why didn't you fix the problem? Linda, why didn't you make Fred happier that day? What is your problem? You're judged guilty. Why didn't you buck him up and encourage him that day he was discouraged? It will not according to the Bible it won't. That you are not morally responsible for how other people feel. We got enough issues on our own plate. He's going to look at me and say, David, let's talk about you. Don't worry about Elaine. Let's talk about you for a little bit, or a long time. And why did you do this? Why did you do this? Not, why didn't you fix X, Y, Z? That's not what's going to, in someone else's heart and mind. We're not going to be morally responsible for that.